1-4 Complex Numbers Day 2. Your learning goals are still that you will be able to represent complex numbers and their operations on a complex plane. I put a note, it's in pink, that when you are performing operations with square roots of imaginary numbers, first express all square roots in terms of I, then perform the operation. So what that means is if you have negative square root of 25 times negative 4, you cannot multiply these two together and then say, oh, that's the square root of 100, which is 10. This is not right. The correct way to do it is you have to express the square roots in terms of I. So this one would be 5i, because that's a perfect square. And then the square root of negative 4 is 2i. Now you can multiply them together and get 10i squared. And remember, every time you see the I squared, you change it to negative 1. So your correct answer is negative 10. So example 1, we're going to perform the indicated operations and write the answer in standard form. So remembering what our note said, we can't do anything until we express those square roots in terms of I. Alright, square root of negative 18 is not a perfect square. So we're going to have to first bring out the I. And you know square root of 18 is 9 times 2. And we can square root the 9 and make it 3i radical 2. Minus. Have to do the same thing with the square root of negative 8. Bring out the I first. 8 is 4 times 2. We can square root 4 and make it 2i radical 2. Now that I have like terms, I can subtract. So 3i radical 2 minus 2i radical 2 gives me 1i radical 2. Okay, B. Remember, when you see a binomial square, that means that you have to write it twice. Now, before you do anything, well, actually, I've contradicted myself. I said before you do anything, you have to express the square root in terms of I. So we're going to bring out the I. Now, this means to write it twice. And now we can FOIL. So we do first, outer, inner, and then last, I'm going to get I squared times 5, or I'm just going to make it 5i squared. Alright, my middle terms don't cancel, so I'm going to get negative 2i radical 5 plus 5, there's that I squared. So combining like terms, 1 minus 5 is negative 4 minus 2i radical 5. Okay, and then C. Before I do anything, I have to simplify square root of negative 50. So I'm going to bring the I out first. And then 50 is 25 times 2. So the square root of 25 is 5. And I'm leaving the 2 under the radical. And remember, in standard form, I have to split it up. So I have negative 25 over 15 plus 5i radical 2 over 15. And then from here, I'm just going to reduce it. So in the first fraction, that reduces to negative 5 over 3. In my second fraction, it reduces to 1/3 I radical 2. Some people write it like this. And then some people may write it like this. Just make sure the I is not under the radical. So either one of those is correct. And then my last example will involve us distributing, but before we distribute, we have to simplify each radical that has a negative. So I'm going to take out my I, and 12 is 4 times 3. So I can square root the 4, so I'm going to have 2i radical 3. In parentheses, square root of negative 4, that's a perfect square, so that's just 2i. And then the radical 2 stays as is. Alright, so now I can distribute. 2i times 2i, that's 4i squared radical 3 minus 2i radical 6. And so there's that I squared. And so 4 times negative 1 is negative 4 radical 3 minus 2i radical 6. And then you're done.